Hello and welcome to Coffee Break. It's Steve Barrett, the editorial director of PR Week. Delighted to be here with Peter Finn, who's the founding managing partner of Finn Partners. Peter, welcome to Coffee Break. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Nice to see you.
Yeah, and we can see you in your home, I assume, there. Tell us a little bit about how lockdown has been for you. We're past Labor Day now, 6 months in, and who knows when we're going to be going back. Tell us about your personal experience and then maybe how it's impacted the agency.
Well, for me personally, it's been okay. It's been okay for me personally and for the company. Early on, it was, mid to late March, I went to my home in upstate New York, and I've been back to New York City a few times, but mainly been up here for 6 months now. And it's okay. I get my work done, and I'm doing fine. For
What
Finn
have you,
Partners, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, what have you learned from that? Well, one, we're very lucky that we can do our jobs remotely. I think that's
Yeah.
one thing, isn't it? A lot of people don't have that luxury, but being able to do that at PR Week and a lot of agencies and PR pros have. But how has it changed the dynamic in terms of your own working day and also managing a global agency?
Well, I think I've discovered what a lot of people have discovered, and that is that Zoom has changed the world. And we can. I mean, we're not using Zoom now, but I use Zoom many times every day, and I'm meeting with members of my staff and with others constantly, and it's like being in the room with people. So it would not have been possible for me to do my job remotely in the past, but I can now. And it's not clear how much longer this is going to go on for, but we're able to do our business. We're servicing our clients, doing great work for them, pitching and winning new business. So we adapted to the new reality, and we've been able to do so fairly well.
Yeah, talk to us about the client part of it, in terms of both servicing existing clients, but also new business, virtual pitching. How have you managed to prosper in that environment, and what have you learned most?
Well, clients wouldn't have accepted, or prospects wouldn't have accepted a virtual pitch in the past, but of course it's become the norm. So, and all the agencies are doing it. So it's we've refined the process for ourselves, and as I said, we're pitching and winning new clients constantly. So there was a period, the first 90 days of the lockdown, business really slowed down. There was no question about it. The inflow of new business slowed down. There were clients that cut budgets or suspended work. But by the fall, it now seems like we're getting back to where we were before the lockdown. So in any case, I think we're doing okay.
Yeah, we've seen obviously agencies affected badly, especially those that specialize in certain areas like hospitality or travel or tourism. How has that impacted you? Did you have to make layoffs and furloughs, or do you have a fairly robust sort of book of work that covers a lot of different bases?
So our business is diversified, and that's helped us. Certain sectors have been hurt. Other sectors actually have been doing quite well during the COVID-19 crisis. We have not made cuts as directly related to COVID-19. What actually happened is, first, let me say that I think that when I launched Finn Partners, which is almost 10 years ago now, my goal was to create an agency that was a company with a heart and a conscience. We didn't want, it's not just a business. This is really all about our relationship with all the people within the firm and externally also. And I think that's really served us well. And so let me talk about how that's played out with COVID-19. Initially, when we saw client after client cutting budgets or suspending work, we were pretty certain that we needed to do something, but we did not want to cut staff. So what we did is we decided we would have across the board salary cuts, with the largest cuts, the most senior people, and very small cuts for the junior people. But we felt everybody should participate in this. We should all be in it together, even the groups that were not suffering from client losses or client budget cuts. We then discovered that we were eligible to receive a loan from the Small Business Administration, the Payroll Protection Program loan. And once we applied for that and received the funds, we restored all the salaries retroactively so that nobody lost a dollar. There were some groups that we were discussing changes in prior to the lockdown, prior to the start of COVID-19 crisis, and we suspended those discussions. We felt it was just not the right time to make any changes when the whole world was being turned upside down. But as we've emerged from the worst of the crisis, we've decided that we would resume those discussions, and we've made some changes in a couple of groups completely unrelated to COVID-19, though. These are groups that we needed to make some changes in. And we've resumed hiring for the groups that are doing really well and need that. So, you know, it's still evolving, but I think one of the key things we did is from the start, I was completely transparent with the staff. I wrote frequent, in-depth emails to the entire staff, letting them know what was happening, what we plan to do about the situation, providing them with the opportunity to speak with me and other members of management. I held frequent video meetings with individual groups, answering any questions they had. And it all ties back to our value of being an agency with a heart and a conscience. So, you know, there are other agencies that I was surprised to see some of the publicly traded companies that reported that their revenues were down. They've reported that they've cut staff, they've cut salaries, and yet their profits were up. You know, that's a complicated situation to be in. You know,
yeah, that was interesting. That in the Q2, especially in the Q2 results, you've got an interesting ownership structure in that you obviously have some investment from Stagwell Group, but you also retain some independence. Firstly, just explain exactly how that works, but also how that structure, that ownership structure has informed your strategy over the past 6 months.
So Stagwell has made a minority investment in Finn Partners, and I control the decision making along with other key managing partners in the company. And so the management team of Finn Partners has made all the decisions about how to deal with this situation. We don't have a parent company telling us what to do, and that's important to me and to other members of our management team, and it's worked extremely well for us.
Yeah. What about your acquisition strategy? Because you're on a bit of a tear there in terms of buying up firms. That, I guess, was put on a bit of pause during the pandemic.
Yes.
But also, you have to absorb all those acquisitions into your company as well. So how did it impact the process of absorption? And also, what's your acquisition strategy going to be moving forward?
So first of all, in terms of absorption, we've had tremendous success with all of our acquisitions. I'm constantly getting positive feedback from the management teams of the firms we've acquired, telling me how happy they are to be part of Finn Partners and many resources they have access to as part of Finn Partners they didn't have access to as an independent firm. So we're not a holding company, we're an agency. So every time we make an acquisition, our goal is to fully integrate them into Finn Partners. We did have 2 acquisitions that were scheduled to be completed this year, and we have put those in pause until next year. We're actually I just signed a 3rd term sheet for another acquisition that we'll make probably 2nd quarter of next year. So this year we will not be completing any acquisitions, but I am working now on acquisitions that we will plan to complete next year. I think next year will be a busy year for us. Acquisitions has been an important part of our growth strategy. Last year was amazing for us. We grew 35%. Half of that was acquisitions, half of that was organic. And I think next year is going to be another big year for us.
Yeah, you're coming into a sort of moving beyond almost the mid-size into the large type of agency threshold, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, last year our fees were just under 120 million. Our fees will be down this year, but I think next year will be another year of strong growth.
So you're talking about next year. When everybody's asking this, when are we? And I know you can't really be a crystal ball gazer, and nobody really knows the answer. But how do you see the rest of the year panning out? in terms of going back to work, going back to the offices and into next year? And what's your sort of transition plan? I guess it's got to be pretty flexible.
Yes, we're definitely going to be flexible. Our offices outside of the U.S. have opened with partial staff. I think up to 25% of our staff in the office in any given day. We have not reopened any of our U.S. offices, and we're trying to decide right now when we will. The earliest it will be is November 1st. We're actually in the process of doing a survey. We've done quite a few surveys of our staff over the past 6 months. We're doing a new survey to find out who exactly wants to go into the office now. And once we have that information, then we'll make a decision about, for each office, how to move forward. But we want to move forward with as much caution as possible. The most important thing is to protect the health and well-being of our employees. And we don't want to rush and bring people in and then discover we have a problem in the office with the virus spreading around the staff. So we want to be extremely careful.
Do you think it'll be this year in the US?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do you think that people will be going back this year in the US?
I think that there will be some staff going back to offices before the end of the year. There are members of our staff working in home offices with kids at home and a working spouse at home, and have been saying to me, I really need to get back to the office. So we're going to do our best to accommodate them, but we want to be sure to do so in the safest way possible.
Yeah, you've got some people who are desperate to come back. So you've got people living alone, you know, who
right.
anyone for 6 months who are desperate to get back to sort of normality.
And we want to be as helpful as we can to everybody who needs to get back to the office. But
sure.
We want to be careful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got to be. I mean, New York suffered really badly, didn't it, in April, May, and we all remember that time. And I think, especially in New York, we feel particularly sensitive to it. So we don't want to go back to that time. Of course, the other thing that's been going on in this sort of perfect storm has been the protests around racial injustice. What impact has that had on your staff, and how have you responded to those events? And in both as an agency and also in terms of servicing your clients?
Okay, so a commitment to diversity inclusion was one of our founding principles. We had a list of 6 different core values that were important to us when we started Fin Partners, and a commitment to diversity inclusion was one of those early commitments. We've been very active in this area for a long period of time, but we're now stepping up our activity. We have someone who is leading diversity and inclusion for us, and she has now formed a larger group. We've asked her to lead a DEI committee, which now consists of 80 people from all of our offices, who they meet twice every other week, and they've created subcommittees to focus on internal training, recruitment, thought leadership, and a number of other activities. And the subcommittees are meeting more frequently. We've launched a matching donation program. The committee came up with a list of 20 not-for-profits devoted to DEI, that if any of our employees give money to them, we will match it. And there are a lot of, so we're very active and proactive in this area. And again, we've had a long-term commitment in this sector, but we're stepping up our commitment and trying to really make a difference for the firm.
And just to finish, Peter, have you ever seen anything like this last 6 months? I mean, I think everybody started this year in January, February thinking, wow, this is going to be a great year. The market's good, business is up, business is booming. And then all of a sudden we're hit with one whammy, there's a double whammy, and now we're like a bit dazed. Have you reflected on that at all? Have you had time to reflect on that?
You know, I've been through some tough times in the past, with the dot-com bubble bursting, and then 2008, the financial meltdown, but nothing like this. This is, one problem after another, and it's with the fires out west there, we have 3 offices on the West Coast, and I've made an offer to our staff on the West Coast that anybody, I have some extra housing. I'm in the mountains of upstate New York right now, and I have some extra houses here that our staff members get to use any time of the year that they want to for free. But I've said to the West Coast staff, if any of them can make it east, if they want to come here, they can come here as my guests and stay as long as they want. And I have internet access so they can work from here.
That sounds good. Yeah, it's horrific what's going on the West Coast. We didn't even get to talk about that. So yeah, listen, thanks for joining us, Peter, and continued good fortune, and stay safe out there.
Okay, very nice to see you.